G'day guys, Solid here and welcome back to another episode of Adventure News where we talk the latest, the greatest and sometimes the hated adventure and dual sport stories. And if you're an off-road tragic like I am, and good chances you are if you're watching this video, then you're very aware about how hot the adventure bike segment is, particularly the middleweight and even more particularly the more affordable entry side of the middleweight category at the moment. And well, Triumph have decided they want a piece of that juicy pie and they're thinking about releasing a Tiger 660. So let's dive into all the details straight after the intro. So one of the big topics lately in the motorcycle world has been this Triumph Trident 660 Triple. Now I talked about this in a previous video. It was one of my harebrained schemes where I thought this would be a fantastic motorcycle platform for an adventure bike. And it turns out that Triumph actually agree with me. So it looks like they're actually making a Tiger 660. So let's get into what exactly Triumph are planning here. This picture is a leaked image from a Triumph conference where they're talking about their upcoming models that they're planning. Now clearly this is a 3D sketch, so we don't even have a bike to base this off. So this isn't hard facts. This bike could change at any time. We really don't know what the end product is going to be, but we can see Triumph's intentions here and gauge a lot from this image. Clearly we can see here that this is going to be a modular bike from Triumph. We can see they've got the Adventure Sport, the Roadster and the Tiger 660. So this bike is a platform that they can turn the bike into basically whatever bike they want, which is great business acumen as this has been a major success for Honda and for Yamaha lately. Being able to make multiple bikes out of the same engine and chassis streamlines production, keeps costs down and offers the most bang for buck to the customer as well. So it's a great idea and a smart move from Triumph. The other smart move is this whole Triumph Trident idea to start with. One of the major flaws for Triumph is that they're a premium brand, and that means a premium price tag. Now, a Triumph Tiger, all kitted out, the top of the line Pro model, is roughly $25,000 here in Australia, which is unaffordable for a lot of people, especially the younger crowd who are just getting into motorcycles and thinking about getting their first bike. It really is a little too much to ask. So coming out with this bike not only means that they'll be able to offer a restricted version where you can get it on a learner license, they can also offer a full power version, that is, it makes roughly 80 horsepower for the rest of us who just want a more affordable version of the Tiger 900. So very smart business move is the first thing I wanted to say. So let's look at this Tiger 660. Clearly in the image here, it looks very similar to its bigger brothers. So that's very reassuring. Quite a lot of intention to make this true to the ethos as the current Tigers as possible. We can see it's got spoke wheels there. So it looks like this will be very dirt capable bike like the Tigers are. Now they're not as dirt capable as a dual sport or even as the KTMs, but they still are fairly respectable off-road. And I think you can expect nothing less than what you get out of your Tiger 900 experience, except for cheaper components. So that's what I think this bike will entail. But let's talk about what I think this bike needs in order to be a success. So the Triumph 660 makes roughly 80 horsepower. It's a triple, and it also will have a learner version which is capped so that people in a graduated learner system like we have in Australia or UK or most of Europe, they'll be able to buy a bike as well. So that will suggest to you that this will have cheaper components on it, and I think this will be aimed firmly at the Tenere 700, just as the Triumph Trident is aimed firmly at the MT-07 and is very similarly priced. So I think the first thing here is price. That is going to be the number one thing that defines whether this will be just an acceptable and reasonably popular bike and a bike that people are trampling each other over to try and get. If they can keep this bike priced at roughly the same price as the Tenere or even undercut it, I think that will make it a very popular and tantalizing option in the middleweight adventure market. The other major factor is weight. That's one of the big reasons the Tenere 700 is so popular. Not only is it reasonably priced, at least in the adventure bike world. It's also quite light for what it is. So if Triumph can do the same thing, I think they'll be on a winner there as well. The other thing that they need to balance here is the fuel capacity. Now they need enough for long distance, but it's hard to balance between having too much, making the bike too top heavy and unwieldy, and between that and not having enough fuel range to do long trips when you're doing an adventure ride with all your gear and you're going to remote places where fuel's hard to come by. So they need a decent amount of fuel, but not a super tanker in my opinion. The other thing here is suspension. It doesn't need to be premium suspension, but it needs to have a decent amount of travel and therefore a reasonable amount of clearance for the off-road sections. The other major thing here I think they need to get right is seat height. Now I think they need to follow what Yamaha have done here. The standard option is not great for short riders, but it satisfies all those people that want the most ground clearance and the most suspension travel, but offer a model where with a few tweaks, some lowering links, a lower seat, and hey presto, you've got a version where shorter riders can get their feet down and feel confident, as that will be important not only for the shorter experienced riders, but a lot of riders that are just getting into motorcycle riding, because that will be a lot of who buys this motorcycle, I think, is those people getting their first big bike or learning to ride. So to summarize, that spoked wheels, reasonable suspension and ground clearance, keeping it as light as possible, decent fuel range, and most importantly, I think, is keep it affordable. Now, if they can do all those things, it's a big ask and it really is a lot of R&D to get there, but I think Triumph can do it. They certainly have made some great adventure bikes so far, so I am confident that this 660 will be a fairly decent adventure bike. Now, I'd like to know what you guys think, as my opinion is just my opinion. There are plenty other ideas, and often I miss some stuff that you guys point out that's fantastic. So let me know exactly what you would like to see out of this potential Triumph 660 Tiger. And that's about all I've got for you out of this video. There really isn't too much information, as all we've got is that sketch. I will continue to follow this motorcycle as we do get more information, so you can count on that. And until then, don't forget to hit that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. And as always, guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.